Ireland is in the middle of one of the most talked about housing crises in Europe. House prices are high. Rent continues to rise. And for many people, the idea of owning a home feels further away than ever before. But behind these headlines, there is a quieter reality unfolding. A reality that is not always visible in reports or announcements. A young couple in Dublin, both working full-time, earning stable incomes, still struggling to find a small apartment they can afford. A family staying longer than planned in rented accommodation because moving costs have become too high. And young people delaying life decisions, not because they want to, but because housing has become uncertain. So the question becomes more important than ever. If so many people are under pressure, then who is actually functioning within this system? Who benefits from a housing market where demand is high and supply is limited? To understand that, we first need to understand how Ireland reached this point. Before we go further, if you find these real-world breakdowns useful, make sure to subscribe. Because here, we don't just repeat headlines. We try to understand what is actually happening underneath them. Over the past decade, Ireland's housing market has changed dramatically. Population growth, urban migration, and limited supply have all combined to create long-term pressure. But the most important issue is simple. Housing supply has not kept up with demand. Even though construction is increasing, it is still not enough. Ireland built around 30,000 homes in 2024 and approximately 36,000 homes in 2025. This is progress compared to previous years. But it is still below what is needed. Because estimates suggest Ireland requires around 50,000 homes every year just to keep up with demand. So even as output improves, a gap remains. And this gap does not stay the same. It grows year after year. More people enter the market. More families form. More jobs concentrate in cities. But housing supply does not move at the same speed. Now imagine this imbalance continuing for years. What happens? Prices rise. Competition increases. And access becomes harder. But this is where the story becomes more complex. Because the housing market does not affect everyone in the same way. Different groups experience it differently. Let's take a closer look. Developers are responsible for building homes. In theory, rising demand should lead to more construction. But in reality, development moves slowly. Planning permission can take years. Land is expensive. Construction costs are rising. And labor shortages continue to impact delivery. So while more homes are being built than before, the system is still not keeping up with demand. Banks do not build homes, but they control access to ownership through mortgages. When house prices rise, mortgage values also rise. But in recent years, higher interest rates have made borrowing more expensive. Banks have also tightened lending rules and affordability checks. So access to mortgages has become more difficult, especially for first-time buyers. For existing homeowners, rising property prices can increase the value of their homes. This is often called paper wealth. For example, a home purchased years ago may now be worth significantly more on the market. But this does not automatically improve day-to-day life. Because at the same time, living costs, mortgage rates, and general expenses have also increased. So the benefit is real on paper, but limited in reality. In a market where demand is high and supply is limited, rental properties often generate steady returns. This is why investment activity remains present in Ireland's housing market. However, investors also face risks such as regulation changes, interest rate fluctuations, and market uncertainty. So while there are opportunities, there is also instability. Now when we step back, something becomes very clear. The housing market is not a simple system where one group wins and another loses. It is a complex system where different groups experience different realities. Developers build under pressure. Banks lend under stricter conditions. Homeowners see rising asset values. Investors operate in a high-demand rental environment. But renters and first-time buyers continue to feel the strongest pressure. And this is where the imbalance becomes most visible. For renters, competition is intense and prices continue to rise. For first-time buyers, saving for a deposit has become more difficult than ever. Even people with stable jobs are delaying major life decisions. Moving out, starting a family, buying a home, all pushed further into the future. Now let's pause for a moment. Because this is the real question behind everything. Do you think Ireland's housing market is fair right now? Or is it still unbalanced in a way that makes it harder for ordinary people to enter? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. To address this, Ireland has introduced housing targets and large-scale investment plans. Billions of euros are being allocated to increase housing supply. The goal is clear. Build more homes. Close the gap. Improve affordability. But there is a challenge. Housing does not respond quickly to policy. It takes years to plan, approve, finance, and complete developments. So even strong policies take time before the impact is visible in real life. Ireland needs around 50,000 homes every year. It is currently building around 36,000. That gap continues to exist. And it builds year after year. Not just economically, but socially. Because housing is not only about prices or investment. It is about stability. It is about independence. It is about whether people can build their lives where they live. So when we return to the original question, who really benefits from Ireland's housing crisis? The honest answer is not simple. Different groups experience different outcomes. Some see indirect advantages. Others face pressure and uncertainty. But one thing is clear. The most consistent pressure remains on those trying to enter the housing market today. And so we end with the final question. What happens next? Will increased housing supply finally bring balance? Or will demand continue to outpace supply for years to come? Because in the end, the future of Ireland's housing market is not just about policy. It is about execution. And maybe the most important thing to understand is this. Housing crises do not change overnight. They do not change with one budget. And they do not change with one announcement. They change slowly, through time, construction, and real delivery of homes. Because at the end of every policy, every plan, and every promise, there is one simple reality. People still need a place to live. Not next year. Not in 5 years. But now. And that is why the housing question in Ireland is not just about numbers. It is about time. Before you go, if you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe for more simple breakdowns of Ireland's housing market, economy, and real-life financial topics.